The information shared on CNS Unfiltered is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any health or lifestyle changes. The views shared are those of guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Innate Clinical Nutrition or its affiliates. This episode includes affiliate links, which help support the show. Hello and welcome. I am Jena Salisbury, and this is CNS Unfiltered, a show where clinical nutrition specialists uncover what traditional medicine overlooks. CNS practitioners and other health professionals get into this industry not just because they love to help people and change lives. We also do it because we love food. We love to change lives through food and all of its incredible life-changing, life-giving properties. But we also find so much joy in just food itself, in eating and cooking and sharing a meal with others. Joy around food is what reminds us that we're alive and that we're part of communities larger than ourselves. I want my clients to see that and experience that for themselves. I want everyone to have access to food that is nourishing to their bodies, minds, and spirits. My goal for clients is always food freedom, the ability to enjoy all of the food that they love. And yes, that includes the breads and the dairies and the desserts. The last thing I ever want to do is take food away. For so many reasons, right? No one wants to hear that they can't eat the food they enjoy. But also, food diversity is so important for our bodies and our health. Eating different foods is one of the best things you can do for your gut. The more foods that you can incorporate into your diet, the healthier your microbiome is. I never want to have to restrict clients, but sometimes our bodies are just not ready for certain foods. Sometimes they're triggering because of a specific cascade that's happening inside the body. Sometimes eliminating those foods can help our bodies to heal. That process is usually just temporary, but for some clients, temporary can mean several months. For people like today's guest, Chuck Hayworth, a personal chef specializing in gut-friendly cooking, achieving food freedom can take literal years. Chuck is a stomach cancer survivor, being cancer-free for 25 years this year in 2026. Chuck's healing journey changed the way he saw food, but also changed the way he approached cooking. In today's special feature episode, I talk with Chuck all about this journey, overcoming a rare stomach cancer, having to relearn how to nourish his body, and writing his 2014 memoir and cookbook, The Chef's Recovery. This book ultimately kickstarted a career and brand dedicated to helping others with chronic illnesses, debilitating diseases, or digestive issues. Cook delicious, nourishing, and healthful foods for themselves that are specifically catered to their diagnoses, so they can still eat with joy while they heal. If you're struggling with a medical condition that is forcing you to change the way you eat, you don't have to go through it alone. This episode is for you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to CNS Unfiltered. Today, we have Chuck Hayworth, and Chuck is known around the world. So I am so blessed to have him here with us today. And we won't be able to dig into everything today. So we're going to start at this top layer. Chuck is the Chef's Recovery. And so he has a book called The Chef's Recovery. He is known for his TV show on MAV TV called Thankful Local Chef. And both of those
both of his outlets have really showcased his passion for food, how it heals, and how food is not just something that we eat, and how much more it is, and how it can amplify our life, heal our life, ground our life, and all of those wonderful parts that food really is the connection for all of us together, for us with ourselves and with our earth. And so I am going to turn it over to Chuck so he can go through more of what brought him to be where we're at, what inspired his book and show, and then how and why it matters to you. Thank you
Oh,
so
I'm
much for
I'm
being
I'm
here,
thrilled to be
sir.
here. This is wonderful. I appreciate everything. Your audience is a group of wonderful people that are. It's so easy to talk to a group that is like-minded. Before the show, I was talking to you a little bit about some of the difficulties that I've had um, with traditional medical. Um, I have been a cancer survivor. I'm coming up on New Year's. It'll be 25 years of rare stomach cancer survivor.
Um,
I'm so excited to be. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And part
Congratulations.
of how I have, and I
Yeah.
curtail this in the chef's recovery. Part of how I've journeyed is it's not been an easy journey with stomach cancer, especially as a chef, because you taste for a living, right? So it's like, what do you do when you're diagnosed with a rare stomach cancer? Well, this was a lifetime ago, as you may imagine. It says, almost 25 years ago. Uh, I was diagnosed with that rare, it's called a GIST tumor, gastrointestinal stromal tumor. And the book really curtails that. I wrote the book in 2014. It talks about the importance of having people that are there alongside you during your journey, your loved ones, your doctors, your caregivers, people that can help you, whether you have, and I talked to you before the show about this a little bit, that if you are in a journey like this, it helps to have a team of people that are your team, your people that help you get through this, whether you're diagnosed with autoimmune or cancer or anything like that. But in my case, I've been able to heal my body a little bit differently. Yes, I worked with traditional doctors, but food has been an integral part of the healing process for me over the last 25 years. And I'll tell you, strong emphasis in organic, strong emphasis on gut health. And let me tell you, 26 years ago, they laughed me out of the room when I mentioned the microbiome, the importance of the second brain, the microbiome. And we eat health. If we heal ourselves
Mm-hmm.
eating anti-inflammatory foods and the importance of gut health back then, they didn't really stress that. This was the late 90s, early 2000s. They didn't really know a lot about the gut microbiome. The research was very low and very low funded. And I'm one of the people that kind of came in very early on as a professional, not only as a chef, but also in an arena that dipped my feet in the political arena a little bit and kind of went over and talked to politicians and said, listen, we need more research money. It's going to help us research the microbiome. It's going to help us research what the root causes of these stomach cancers and rare cancers are. And so I wrote the Chef's Recovery as a story to bring inspiration in, and people from all over the world since 2014 have reached out, told me how inspiring it is and how they've been inspired. The television show was kind of an extension of my passion for the people that grow the food and the people that are our food producers that grow organic foods, things like mushrooms and sweet potatoes and all different kinds of ingredients that we would feature on the shows. And of course, I stressed people supporting their local economy and their local farm movement back before the farm to table movement really took our country by a storm. I was out there as one of the first really pushing hard in the 90s on the East Coast for everyone to find their local farmers market, talk to their local farmers, figure out what's in season, and diversifying their microbiome by eating with the seasons. And in fact, I'm writing another book about that currently. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Cool.
it's if you diversify your gut microbiome with each season by eating seasonal ingredients, research is more and more showing that you are strengthening your immune system and you are helping your body stay well, in addition to having all the characteristics of anti-inflammatory ingredients. And so it's like it's a win-win recipe for success and health. And I think more and more doctors and naturopathic doctors are buying into this philosophy now. Yeah.
1,000%. And that's something that in my practices I'm preaching all of the time is variety, diversity, and expanding
Absolutely.
the diet. Doctors and a lot of other nutritionists or influencers, right? Is we'll take out gluten and take out dairy and take out the nightshades and take out the oxalates and take out the whatevers and do this food sensitivity panel. Okay, now take all of those out. So then by the time someone gets to me, they got 4 foods, and I'm like, okay, we have to expand
That's the problem.
all of this because diversity is life.
Absolutely.
Diversity is key.
Absolutely.
Diversity is
And
health.
I tell people, I'm like, the biggest thing in the 90s and the early 2000s when I was coming through, in my training, everybody was doing the low carb diets and everybody was doing like, oh yeah, I need to pull out, all these carbohydrates. But, before the show, we were talking about, oh yeah,
Low
and
carb and low fat, right?
not realizing that some of these low fat items are higher in sugars and higher in chemicals than most people realize. And it's like you look at the
And not
labels.
just
Look at the
that.
food labels. They don't lie. They can't lie. By federal law, they can't lie, right? So when we read food labels and we educate ourselves and go, wait a minute, this low fat, Greek yogurt is at XYZ amount of sugar, whereas the full fat Greek yogurt doesn't have any sugar in it. So what's going on here? That's just one example, but probiotics and things like that.
And what people don't, and what people don't see, what's not written on the label too, is once you take out all those fats, there's your fat soluble vitamins, the ones that your body builds up in the system because they need so much for all of our functioning. So sugar is one piece, but the nutrients are the healers, the movers, the shakers.
So, I tell
for
people,
what we
I'm like,
need.
it's foolish to do these types of, if you're going to do a heavy protein diet, obviously a carnivore diet, things like that should be supervised by a physician or a dietitian. Absolutely. But, and in the case of cancer, a lot of those have been found to be short-term effective. See, a lot of people want to do them long-term, and it's short-term effectiveness. Hey, listen, we've cut the life off of this tumor. We've cut the life off of this cancer by doing this short-term carnivore diet. Great, but don't stick with that. We need the nutrients. The nutrients come from the food and from the earth, from the plants, and so many doctors, so much confusing information, but if they would just use a little tiny bit of common sense that we have because we've been through these journeys before with patients, and also in my case having been a patient. I tell people I've been through the roller coaster so that you don't have to.
Yeah. And I think people forget too that just because one thing works, as you mentioned, it's a short term because there's going to be a next phase. The body's like a system. And once you take care of one set of gears, as I call it, the next set of gears are going to have to recalibrate, and you're going to have to go right along with that. So as you mentioned, okay, we cut off the life supply. Like I had a client came and she had a breast tumor. And she didn't want to go. She started keto, real low, fasting a lot, and it stopped growing. Awesome. She goes, but Jena, it's not reversing. I'm like, well, all you did was stop the food, but there's nothing in it to kill it. There's nothing there to kill it. There's nothing there to remove it. And so now we got to go to that next phase.
And that's where communication
goes in
with,
phases.
oncologists and traditional medicine meets naturopathic communication. We can tell them, listen, this is the communication. This is how we want to talk to our physicians. I'll read over and over again intake forms for my clients, and I put a lot of medical information that most private chefs don't. I've been a private chef now since I started this journey. I first started with my fellow cancer patients and their caregivers, and it just snowballed into an opportunity that is tremendous, to where I'm hopefully in the next few months going to go nationwide with my brand and bring this into the households, and then eventually have apps and books and all kinds of other things that come out to the American public to try to really get this in as many hands, and this information in as many hands as of many people that are out there struggling with their medical health, regardless of what they've been diagnosed with, that if we focus in and laser focus on the food and the intake, and what are we taking into our bodies that is the root cause of these irregular cell growths that are causing this, causing this diagnosis, we can really help educate the American public. That's why podcasts like yours are so, we were talking before the show, it's so important to have education from podcasts like yours, and in every front that we can educate the public, we need to.
I agree. That's knowledge is power, and that's the shift of medicine, right? Like, and I work with a lot of physicians, and I've been in this field, and I can't tell you how frustrated I get. I guess I am going to tell you how frustrated I get when I see where they're trying to do the functional medicine and they're trying to do this, but they don't have a nutritionist on staff. They don't have anyone talking about the lifestyle, or they're talking a little bit, or they know just enough about nutrition to be dangerous. So they're the ones saying, "Oh, take out the histamines. Oh, you feel better? Great, I
Well,
did
that's
my
like
job."
putting a Band-Aid on a tourniquet. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a tourniquet wound. It's like there's so
Exactly.
much more to do than just elimination of these different products. I had a client who just, recently they stopped services, and they were huge on, like, I need to just cut out the histamine in my daughter's diet. And I just kept saying, they wouldn't mind me telling you this story. I kept telling her, I said, no, 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 no. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a tourniquet wound. It's like you need to make sure that we find the root causes and that we get the appropriate diagnosis coming in. That way we don't just eliminate food. We begin to figure out what is the root cause of this. This child had anything and everything was causing her to break out. And it was like, it was so sad. And it got to the point where the parents were like, I don't know what else to do. I said, well, listen, we need a full blood. We need just to go through and do all the blood tests,
Yeah.
get the analysis from the professionals, bring it back to me. We'll get the menu going. Knock on wood. They moved out of my my current service area in North Carolina. They moved out of North Carolina last month, but knock on wood, the email and the text that they sent me was, she's feeling so much better because we were able to work with you on the nutritional side of things. The one piece of the puzzle that was missing was the nutrition. And we were able to work with her, get her the ingredients that she was eating, and get her feeling better, and get that immune system boosted to the point where she was doing better. She was doing much better, feeling like a normal kid, like she could play around kids and eat a lunchbox that looked quasi-Americanized, if you will, lunchbox for young ones, things like that.
Sure.
And it's funny because that's just one example of the people that I've helped over the years, in the 26 years that I've been doing what I do just with food. And it's been a roller coaster because
It
oh yeah,
really is about the shift. Like, once you kind of see, like, okay, a histamine, if I take out the histamine foods, we get better. Well, now I know what
exactly.
pathway, right? Now we can look at, is it a yeast? Is it a bacteria? Okay, do we have enough good ones to fight it? Okay, well, let's focus on the good ones to fight that one, put them in check, right? It's that shifting.
Exactly. And that's where you have to have everyone that's involved in the healthcare process to be involved in this, one degree or another. Myself being the chef, and by the way, I'm also working on my PhD in naturopathic nutrition, so that's kind of cool. That's kind of, yeah, it's like the
Oh,
second half of
cool.
my journey. I want to affect as many people as I possibly can. So I'm currently enrolled in Rockwell, and in the Rockwell School for Holistic Medicine, and we'll see. This is a great journey. It's all online, and I'm able to do it in my free time, which I think is fantastic. But as many people, I've been reading like crazy, by the way, and it's like everything that's out there, there's always something new to read about. And then you have to be able to, as someone like in your position or in mine, we have to be able to analyze the actual information that we're given by, in your case, the patient, in my case, the client, and be able to read that and go, okay, so these are the ingredients that we need to be putting in your food. Boom, 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 boom. And these will help you be able to, possibly, along with your healthcare journey, be able to get better or feel better or be able to feel a quasi-normal lifestyle. And all of this started, it's hard to believe, but I have a third of the digestive tract of most Americans. So it's like all of this started with experimentation for me to figure out what foods my body could tolerate when I was undergoing stomach cancer. So it's kind of wild. It's all 360 now. It's coming back around.
Yeah, your book was so interesting when you were going through that of like, well, legitly cannot eat. Like, I have to figure this out. Like, would you, because I know the audience is probably burning to know if someone says they cured themselves from stomach cancer, like, what did you do? What was the magic?
People laughed at me, but I read a lot of information about what was going on at the time in cancer research, and especially with regards to rare cancer like what I had, the gastrointestinal stromal tumor, or GIST tumor to be short. And what I wound up doing and reading and analyzing, I treated it kind of like a college project, kind of like an undergrad moving into grad school. You're getting ready to write that big report for yourself. And so what I wound up doing is like, hey, I'm gonna write a thesis about this, and see where it goes. And so I curtailed my journey by just saying, okay, I'm gonna keep this journal. This journal wound up being the Chef's Recovery. It wound up being the book. And of
Cool.
course, as I moved further in my life, I met Eileen 1 year off of stomach cancer. Okay, 1 year. And I was at a pretty low point at that point. I was at a friend of ours' wedding, and a mutual friend of ours, and neither one of us were married. And we met, and the stars aligned. I told her, yeah, she's like, why aren't you eating like what the rest of the men are eating, the steak and the heavy duty red meat and all this? And I said, well, because I have stomach cancer. I can't tolerate this. My body can't tolerate it. Red meat. I was barely eating solid food at the time. And so it was like, oh, so that would explain why you're having a broth and a coffee or your tea, hot tea and things like that. I said, yes, that explains that. But I mean, she's been with me through this journey, and it's funny because, like I say, if you have people that believe in you and you believe in them, and they constantly giving you, never underestimate the power of positive energy around you. People with positive energy saying, you know what, we're going to beat this together. Okay, we're going to beat this autoimmune disease that we've been diagnosed with together. We're going to beat this thyroid issue together. We're going to beat this cancer, and this is one that's strong for me. We're going to beat this one. We're going to beat this together. And so, I mean, part of what I really stress in the book is you have to surround yourself with loved ones, with people who love you and care for you, and people who believe in you and believe in what you're. In my case, I was going completely against everything that was traditional medicine when it came to a diagnosis. From the minute I told that surgeon, I want you to remove everything you see until there's nothing else to remove. If there's anything that looks even resembles cancer, don't worry about it. Just get it out of me. And as a result, I had to square peg and round hole my digestive system. I had to learn to eat food again, and it started with a liquid diet. And of course, I'd add some recipes and things of that I added in the Chef's Recovery, some recipes from my journey directly. Like I said, it's a journal through my life at that time leading up to survival. And I encourage you, if you're out there and you're struggling with something like cancer, autoimmune, or any other major health issues, hold a journal in your hand, even if it's a small notebook, and take notes as to how you're feeling, as to how, especially food and nourishment, makes you feel. And you never know. You may try a new ingredient and feel like $1,000,000 and go, holy cow, trying that pomegranate really gave me a boost. Or trying that, new ingredient, insert name, star fruit or mango or sour sop or, something of that nature, which that's a whole nother, those fruits. The tropical fruit journey in my life started with cancer. It was like I never even knew what a mango was, being from the South, until I started my journey with cancer. Now I can't live without them. Passion fruit and guava and mango and things of that nature. So my father-in-law lives in South Florida, and he grows all these for me. And so even sour, yeah, even a
Lucky.
soursop tree. He's going to plant me 2 this year. See, Roy, now I'm on a podcast. You have to tell me you're going to
Sweet.
plant 2 trees for me this year. If you're listening, that's Roy, my father-in-law. I know he's listening. I know he's listening. I
Hi,
know he is.
Roy.
He actually, out of inspiration, my mother-in-law at the time, she's a real reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. My mother-in-law struggled very, very highly throughout and I've been with Eileen now from the beginning. I've been with Eileen for 25 years. And we've been married 22 of the 25. And my mother-in-law was constantly struggling with her autoimmune diagnosis. And I felt so helpless being a food service employee at the time, just working in food, being a chef, not really educating myself and really knowing, because I had my own set of problems with the cancer, trying to recover from stomach cancer. But I dedicate daily the things that I do to Gloria and Roy, and how they've been such a positive influence in my life. I asked him, I said, hey, can you grow a soursop tree for me? Because he lives in South Florida. I can't grow them here in North Carolina. He planted it with no questions asked, and he still to this day gives me the fruits and the puree and all the great things that come with that. And of course, we know about soursop and what it does to cancer cells, naturopathically speaking, and what it has, studies have shown that it just cuts the life of that tumor off, and really is a bridge to help you get well when it comes to that kind of thing. And so he planted it as a just in case moment. So now I have him, like, I've got clients that are cancer patients that are like waiting for their soursop juice. It's not that it's a miracle, but it's something from nature that we can use that will help us in our healing process. You see all the information about it. Well, back then it was just like, well, I've heard good things about this from my friends in the Caribbean, so let me plant it for you. And it's been a tremendous part of my therapy.
That is awesome. You mentioned the notebook of writing things down, um, before we came into the fruits, and I just wanted to hit on that real quick because I feel like one of the foundations of, what you're talking about and what you're preaching right now is the relationship you have with yourself. And I can't tell you how many people come and I'm like, okay, well, how do you feel after this? Or tell me what you feel like for this. Or is this in the middle of the day or end of the day? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I've never checked in like that. And so there might just be a few weeks where we're just keeping that journal and checking in, because that alignment and that understanding of yourself and understanding how your systems work, it is literally the foundation. Like, that is the foundation. And then we will know what fruits to give you.
In my case, I kept about 150 spiral notebooks. It drove Eileen crazy when I was writing the Chef's Recovery. I was looking through all these notebooks that she hadn't even seen. And she's like, what in the world? I'm like, I'm looking through the recipes. I'm telling my journey. And it was tremendous to her, because here we had been married. We had been married almost 10 years before, 10 to 12 years before I actually thought about writing the book. And then once I finally got the Chef's Recovery written, she's going, all of this came from your spiral notes that you took. And I'm literally like pulling things out that I hadn't looked at since culinary school. And when I was going through the journey that I was going through as a chef in my first couple of years in the kitchen after college and undergrad and all that. And I'm looking through all this stuff, and she's like, wow, these are ancient, but these are your notes. This tells us that this particular food caused you to have some major reflux, and this particular food caused you to feel better, and like in the case of ginger, it really was tremendous for me because it helped my nausea, and now it's widely known that ginger helps nausea. But 26 years ago, it was pretty much the Wild West. You had to experiment. You had to figure out what foods can your body tolerate, what foods reduce inflammation. Are they widely available in the regular supermarkets, like your neighborhood supermarkets, or do you have to go to specialty stores and herbalists for them, that kind of thing? So it's tremendous to me. That, I mean, even looking back, before the show, I was in my office looking through some of that stuff, and I was just like, wow, I can't wait to share this with our listeners.
I'm so excited. I love this because it touches on all the different pieces of it too, right? Like getting to know ourselves and getting to know the food and your relationship with the food, right? Like that's one of the biggest things that like I hate taking food away. That's the last thing I ever want to do. But understanding your relationship with the food, the toxic load that you have with that food, why a certain food doesn't agree, that unlocks all the secrets for me, at least, understanding for your body. And then it's like, okay, now I get it. This is how we
Yeah,
can continue down that path
absolutely.
and keep going. When it came to your journey and like reading your book, like clinically, a lot of people have low foods, right? They don't eat money foods when they come to me. And usually with the gut, the first thing I want to do is take pressure off the gut. So I'm like, as much as you can cook, as much as you can blend, as much as you can break down prior to coming in is where I want you to start. Open up the foods, but take the stress off the gut. And but I rarely get to a full liquid diet. And you had to do a full liquid diet. Wasn't it over a year? Like it was a long time.
It was actually close to 3 years. Back then it was like you'd walk the shelves of the soup aisle and the search the juices and things like that, and nothing really was standing out as being healing. Nowadays you have kombucha, you've got misos, you've got all kinds of things to choose from. But one thing that did help tremendously for me was getting some type of probiotic. So I used kefir a lot. I used a kefir. People pronounce it all different ways, but dairy and non
It's a
yeah,
fermented
fermented
dairy
dairy
product
product.
for those who don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah, fermented dairy product. And now, of course, they have plant-based as well. So, for those of you that don't do dairy or don't tolerate dairy well, they have the coconut versions of kefir now, which are tremendous, and they're packed full of probiotics. And I know you've really touched on that in past shows as well, the importance of that. But when you're trying to rebuild a digestive system from the ground up, I am no doctor and no professional, but I can tell you that in rebuilding and getting back to what we were talking about earlier, how I would answer to some of these folks, how I was able to do this. It started with that liquid diet. We now know the health benefits from countries like Okinawa and Japan of miso and miso broth and that kind of and what that brings to our digestive system and our gut microbiome. But I have a recipe for miso soup in my book that was tremendous for me using that.
And if anyone doesn't know what miso is, again, fermented soy product. So we're really getting into the fermentation, which is where we have the prebiotics feeding the probiotics, where the sugar in these foods are being turned into the healing byproducts that we need. And it becomes really the only living food we get to ingest, which makes it so powerful, so adaptive, and so life-giving.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, life giving. I sit here today and discuss this with you, as opposed to, one of my family members saying, hey, he passed, but this was what he did. And I attribute it to the life giving characteristics of these two foods, or several foods that I've mentioned to you already, and the ones that I mentioned in the book. It's tremendous to me. And now, of course, there's a wide series of studies that show all of this, of course, and I'm sure you're familiar with many of them as well. But, for me, I've had to just kind of over the years, Google was tremendous. I was able to get in the computer and just continue Googling up some of the early on studies that were showing this stuff. And I would introduce these ingredients to my diet and see. So liquid diet for 3 years, largely based on bone broth, which we know the healing characteristics found in bone broth. I had to make my own bone broths, by the way. There weren't any back then. They had a lot of chicken broths and things like that. But what would irritate me were some of the added chemicals that were in those box mixes and other things that were on the shelves. So I also encourage people that if you're looking at things on the shelves, be sure to read those labels, because I'm sure you've talked about that a little bit in some of your previous shows about reading those labels, looking at what else is in there, where it should say, chicken bones, spring water, herbs. No, there's about 20 or 30 ingredients on those shelf stable, broths. And really, 26 years ago, you didn't really have a lot of choice. So I would get laughed at, but I would go up to, and at the time I was at Johnson & Wales University, I would go up to the meat lab, Johnson & Wales University, grab as many bones as I could. The chefs were like, hey, we're just putting them in the freezer to use them to make stock, so take what you want. So I would take bones from the beef, bones from the chicken that were trimmed by my fellow culinary students at school, and go and make my own beef bone broths and my own chicken broths at a fraction of, make a gallon, 5 gallon at a time, 1 gallon to 5 gallon at a time, depending on the size of pots that I had access to in my apartment. And I would just go, and it would last me, a few weeks, and that's nourishment. And then in addition is the miso as well. I was still on a liquid diet, and they were pushing a lot really hard, the electrolyte beverages.
You don't need them, though.
You don't need those.
Not if you're doing the bone broth.
Yes. I mean, in that, I found it was, and there again, this gets back to experimentation, because again, I didn't have the guidance of that we have now and the knowledge that we have now. So I had to listen to the medical professionals in my life, and gradually I realized I'm getting more out of these broths when I was on the liquid diet, more out of these broths and more nourishment out of these broths, and they make me feel better than these electrolyte beverages, the Gatorades, and I hate to mention the names, but the sugary beverages that are on the grocery store shelves that had all the chemicals and colors and all those agents that they were pushing at the time. So I said, you know what? If I do crave those, I know there's ways to create those. So I started juicing. And by the way, this was before juicing was a huge fad that's in American households now. So I wound up going to a natural food store and getting a juicer for myself and making my own electrolyte beverages with a little bit of sea salt and primarily spring water and the juice from the fruit itself. And that strengthened my immune system. And it's a simple recipe. It was a little bit of wild honey, some pink Himalayan sea salt, and then the juice of, at this time, it was like Florida citrus or berries or whatever was in season. And gradually that's what led to me beginning to slowly move out of the liquid diet and onto a solid diet again, which, that was really awesome. That was a really awesome moment.
It is amazing. And I just want to marry it all together for everyone listening out there. So, we started with fermented foods and the probiotics. And, a lot of people are starting to get to know me now. Like, I have a gut first practice. And it's very common that probiotics are usually the first things put in. But those would not have been able to colonize and take place if the bone broth wasn't coming in to heal the mucosa and set the environment and give the zinc and the vitamin A and the calcium and the glutamine and the zinc and everything required for that mucosa. And then the bacteria have a nice home with the food and the immune system. Like, that's cool, I'll colonize here. And then
it's a little pillow.
Yeah, a little pillow.
It's a little
I
pillow.
can do this.
Come and chill on the beach, bacteria.
Pretty much. And then here's all the antioxidants and the vitamin C and the citrus to build that secretory IgA. Like, each of those play a role. And when you bring them together, because you can't just put fermented foods in. If the gut's not ready, it can hurt. It can actually do more damage.
Oh, it did. It did. When I first added it, oh goodness gracious, I said, okay, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready for these kimchis, and I'm not ready for these pickles and things of that nature. I was like, ooh, yeah, not ready for that yet. But the yogurts and the probiotics, the kefir, as we mentioned, that was a little easier. So it was a little bit like, okay, I can get this dairy back in, And I have a third of the stomach of most Americans, so it's like my stomach had to kind of readjust, and my intestines had to readjust, and everything was different because it's like I eat for a living, I cook for a living, and it's like now I have to kind of step back for a minute and heal, and it's like learn to heal using these ingredients that we've touched on, and like you said, it was experimental, but it took time. But once I got there, it was like, holy cow, I feel better than I ever have in my
I
life.
bet. I bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the beauty is like, just to kind of give some underlying understanding too of the liquid diet, when your gut is in such a trauma, that fight or flight is on, and it naturally suppresses digestion and absorption and the whole 9 years when it comes into your system. So then on top of losing whole sections, like when you blend it and cook it, and the molecules of the food are going to start getting attached to the water molecule, to the fat molecule, whatever they need, to the vitamin C, if we'll say it's iron from the greens. And then literally they can be absorbed right from your cheeks, any of the mucosa. So you take a huge burden off of the digestive system, and all you're doing is nourishing, 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 giving, giving, giving. But people think like salads. Oh, the healthiest thing I could do is a salad. Well, I tell you what, if your gut is not okay, that salad is detoxing, is stressful. The body's got to put a lot of investment in for very little return. And that is really not the goal when you're trying to heal. The goal is to nourish.
Absolutely. Nourishment that is the top goal. And, it's funny you mentioned salad because I have had quite a few clients that have approached me over the years with their medical issues and one of the, but I'm eating healthy. I'm eating a lot of salad greens and I'm doing that. So, okay, well, that's fantastic. But we have to really create the environment where we can break that down and get and get those nutrients to the places in our bodies that they're needed to be able to begin the healing process. And that takes time. That takes a lot of time. And it does take more than just a bowl of salad, as you say, use as an example, and that's where that experimentation came in for me because, having a third of the digestive tract of most human beings, it's like, okay, now what do I do? And you say the fight or flight complex, it's like, yeah, that absolutely happened. And of course, that also often happens in a gag reflex with a lot of patients as well. I'm sure you run into that. And that in my case, that's what wound up happening. Oh man, that doesn't work. I can't go back to that. I can't do that. But these are soothing and healing. These ingredients are soothing and healing. They're easier for me to digest. They're easier for me to be able to work into my diet. And so I need to begin incorporating these in as opposed to the heavy dairies and cheeses and things of that nature. And it's funny because I started learning about nuts and seeds and nut milks and soy. And at the time, soy was a big thing. Soy milk was everywhere. And so, before I incorporated dairy back into my diet, first came the soy and the nut milks. And that was really tremendous at the time for me. We know about lectins and all that, how harmful they are at times. But for me, I was just in search of that craving that you get from that creamy flavor in the back of your palate.
Sure.
So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like you look for that from time to time. But as time went on, I kind of realized what I could and could not have. And everybody's body is different. Our DNA is different. Our makeup is different and our ailments are different. But the one thing that we have in common is we all have that gut that we need, and we know what it craves and what harms it and what doesn't.
It's true.
What's good for us and what's not good for us. I say food can be an ammunition against disease, but it can also cause the disease. It can cause the ailment as well. And so I believe wholeheartedly that the lifestyle that I had, and the things that I was eating at the time in my teens and early 20s was what led to the poison that was the stomach cancer. But what I've been able to do the second half of my life is be able to use these ingredients that I healed my body with to continue healing, to continue staying healthy, but also use these ingredients to help others and help heal others. Share this information with my clients and their family members and let them try new things and new ingredients and see if they might be interested in being in this movement themselves. And so affecting those kinds of folks, that's really what I've been doing for the last, couple decades. And January is so huge because that's 25 years cancer free. And that's like,
Wow.
next year is going to be big. Yeah. Next year's it's going to be huge. Next year's 26 is going to be huge for us. For my brands that I've built over the years. I certainly hope to get some boost and get a new book. I'm working on the new book, still publishing it, still working on getting it up to, I'm a perfectionist now. I learned all my mistakes in the first book, but also, but also doing things like this, doing podcasts. This is new to me. This is all new to me. So it's kind of like getting back out in front of the camera, cooking in front of the masses again. As I told you when we first started it up, got a little catering I'm doing this evening, teaching people about sweet potatoes, and that's going to be fun. And that's going to be really, it's more about educating people as to how I've come through this journey now, and working on my PhD. I hope to have my first PhD. I've got a goal set for summertime. We'll see where it goes.
Awesome.
So we may have a doctor chef, Chuck, soon. The more the merrier, preaching the word, right?
That is right. So yeah,
that's what it's all
we've
about.
talked about your book. We mentioned your show, and something what your current projects are right now. But the one thing that I think we haven't touched on is being the private chef. I mean, we touched on it a little bit. And so for those who are like, yes, I need help with food, because honestly, like, yes, I'm a nutritionist, but like I give them the outline and I give them the foods, and I don't teach them how to cook it, because it's your field, right? That's really not my field.
That's where the 30 plus years come in. Yeah. That's where 30 years of being in kitchens and being around the great chefs of the 20th and now 21st century. That's where that comes in. Because when you give somebody a guide, that's exactly what it is. But creating the flavors that really cause them to go, I want more of that, I want to try more of that. That's what this is all about. Private chef. As I said, I started 25 years ago with my fellow cancer patients and their caregivers, the folks that were helping them in their journeys, in their homes, because we were in a group therapy session and somebody says, hey, I just can't find time to do meals. And I went, well, that's what I do for a living. As it happens, I'm one of your fellow cancer patients. So why don't I help you guys out? Why don't we do some tastings? Let's figure out what you can tolerate, what you can't tolerate. Let's figure out what the doctor's orders are saying, and let's try to work together to get you some meal plans. Way before meal plans were a big thing. Way before, before everybody did their weekly meal prep day on Sunday or Saturday or whenever people do their weekly meal preps in their household. We were doing meal prep with cancer patients. In my little hometown of High Point, North Carolina, I was helping my fellow cancer patients and their caregivers, and it just snowballed into doing this for a living. It led to caterings. It led up to a career that has really gotten me to where I am today, where I'm in dozens of households every week of individuals who are struggling with everything from autoimmune disease to stomach related and digestive related issues, to cancer, to people that just want to work on gut healthy food. They want to make their guts healthy. Really simple ideas of taking the food and diversifying your gut microbiome by eating with the seasons, and it's a simple therapy, but it's an effective therapy for quite a few people that I've been working with, and it's really gratifying when my clients reach the point where they don't need me anymore.
Isn't it?
Where they're like, hey, I've watched you in the kitchen. I know what I love that you cook, and I know how to cook, because I am very open with my clients about sharing the recipes that go into their bodies, because after all, they're taking that food into their bodies, which in some cultures is really considered sacred. It's really considered what we do as chefs, and I've tried to tell chefs this for 30 years. What we do is sacred. People pay us to cook the food that nourishes them. But it can also cause harm. Things like seed oils and other things that are used widely in restaurants, in the hospitality business and in the food service business, can cause these issues. And so we want to avoid certain ingredients. So swapping out, say, canola oil for avocado oil, it's a simple example. When you're sauté some vegetables lightly in some avocado oil or some coconut oil to get that extra fat in that really helps your digestive tract, things like that. So I work with clients on this on a daily basis, and I have dozens of clients that I've worked with, that I'm currently working with now. And then over the years, I mean, there's so many that since the group therapy came along, I mean, I probably 250, 300 plus households. And it's not just the patient themselves, it's also their family members. Hey, chef, can you help my son eat more vegetables? Can we see if we can incorporate more calcium into the diet of my mother who has osteoporosis? Things like this. And like I say, it's a snowball effect. Once you start in one place, and then the next thing you know, they're telling neighbors about you. So you've got health and wellness events that you're working, and hospital events, and then it really led to a lot of great things. And eventually the connection that I already touched on earlier about this stomach cancer organization that I worked with from Florida, Debbie's Dream Foundation, and meeting Debbie herself, the founder, and she's since passed of stomach cancer, but her inspiration in my life continues and will continue, just like others that have not lived through their journey with cancer have touched my life in one way or another. And I live for them on a daily basis. And I say, you know what, before my time comes, I want to help as many of these people and as many people who need it as possible. And so that's what 26 and Beyond is all about, with Chef Chuck Hayworth, soon to be Dr. Chef Chuck Hayworth.
Woo-woo!
Yeah, I'm very, very excited about that one. And the more like-minded individuals like yourself that we can get out there that can preach the health and wellness that is found in the food that we take into our bodies, because it can be, it can be harmful and it can be helpful. And so we need to really teach people. Yeah, we've got to continue to educate the public and teach them and teach our clients about healthy eating and ingredients and how they can help strengthen their immune system and their gut microbiome, and how if you have a healthy gut microbiome, you've got a healthy brain, you've got a healthy circulatory system, cardiovascular system's in good shape. Everything is going well for you if you can keep that gut microbiome in check and keep it healthy. And that's in essence, that's been 26 years of my life doing that, is figuring out how I can heal. And then once I was completely healed, staying healed, not returning to the old ways and the old diets and the traditional American and Western diet, but rather diversifying my portfolio of healthy food that I take into my body. And that's what I encourage people to do every day. And that's what I do for them every day.
I love it. And I'm right there with you, right? It's the whole reason I started a gut first practice. Like, I was in the field for multiple years of clinical nutrition. And then once I started program development for gut health, and I was in the research, and then I was trialing it and building the program, like, this is it. Like, this is my focus, because I know if I focus here, my ripple out effect is going to be the greatest. And I just jumped in, and it's true. That's why I have a gut first practice. You come to me for anything, guess what? We're going to start in the gut and get that foundation right.
100%.
Then we'll talk about the anxiety or the thyroid or the hormones or whatever else comes after. But we can go back and forth with thyroid or hormones all day. If the gut isn't stable, those meds are just going to keep changing. The
Exactly.
goalpost is just going to keep moving in that frustrating, and the doctors won't know what to do.
And that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is that you can handle that side of things, and people like myself, I mean, think of this. If we have the trifecta, we have the doctors who handle that side of things, and then Chef Chuck that comes in and does meal prep, and then patient that begins to change lifestyle by exercising and meditating and using different forms of therapy to assist them in their recovery. I mean, that is how we recover. That is how we become well. That is how we stay well. It's by having that trifecta.
I agree.
Everyone working together for the goodness and the health of the patient, and that and the client. In my case, in the client, and that's that's what it's all about.
And for all of the people listening that are going to be like, you know what, 2026, you're right, because I'm going to come see you too. Please assure them that they're not going to have to live on a liquid diet if they come see you.
No.
You talked about that a lot.
No. I mean, if we're at that point where we need to start somewhere, we'll do broths and liquid. I have had a number of cancer patients, particularly stomach cancer patients, that have done that, and it's been an effective form of therapy, as we talked about, earlier. But no, you don't have to start there. Your journey starts where you feel it is best to start.
Exactly.
Maybe you want to try a new fruit. Maybe you want to try a new vegetable. Maybe you're down with completely changing your lifestyle. Every journey starts with the thought process in the mind, and then sharing it with your physicians, sharing it with your naturopathic doctors, sharing it with your chefs or your people preparing your food, your caregivers, and then going from there as a journey, as a team, setting these goals and adhering to these goals. That's the most important thing. For me, it was, I'm going to get back to solid food again. I'm going to get back to solid food again. I'm going to get back to solid food again. And then I realized where I am now, where I am today as we sit here is, I am never returning to that lifestyle that led me into cancer in the first place. So I'm going to, for example, I'm going to be eating lean proteins. I'm not going to be returning to what I was once eating, the processed foods and the things that I know led to that stomach cancer diagnosis and that irregular cell growth that that within my gut microbiome that led to that. And now I sit here today kind of coaching others in this way as well, which is tremendous. It's full circle. It's really special. It's a special point, and I'm at a very special point. I really am.
I love it.
I'm
And you're
getting a little
glowing.
choked up. Getting a little choked up talking about it because we've really talked about my whole journey through this, but also how we can help others with this. And your audience is a whole nother audience. There may be somebody listening to this today that's right at the beginning of their journey that we can touch their lives and say, listen, a few little changes here and connecting with the right people that can help give you that foundation that you're going to need will get you to where your goals are being met or exceeded nutritionally.
Love that part. I do, like, right? You get your team and you get out of traditional medicine thought process, not necessarily the doctor, but the thought process, and it can exceed. Like, we can be 100%. Like, I don't think people believe that, but if you believe it and you got the right team and the right food, right, the system, oh yeah.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. It's about finding the right
I agree.
system, the right team, the right people that believe in you, even the right the right doctors, the right doctors that, hey, maybe this is a form of therapy that I need to take a look at. It's been effective for Chuck. It's been effective for Jena. It's been effective for hundreds of other case studies that are out there. Maybe this is something we need to take a look at. And that's changing the mindset of a traditional oncologist or a traditional doctor. That's where you've really come a mile with what you've been trying to do. My oncologist is convinced. He's like, my former oncologist, I should say, is convinced that the the form of therapy that I used is the reason that I'm sitting here talking to you today, Jenna. And that's tremendous to take somebody who, when I started my journey, was so medicinally trained to do it this way. And then when they saw what I was doing, they were like, wow, this is working. Let me just continue. Maybe this is a fluke. Maybe I need to, let me just keep looking at this guy and see what this is doing. And through every test and everything that came back, the cancer, knock on wood, never returned.
Amen.
And so it's like, he did something right. Maybe I should incorporate this in with other therapies, with other patients' therapies. And I'm just so overwhelmed and honored that that my doctor, just one, from 26 years ago, has embraced this movement and embraced this lifestyle change that I've made, such that he is encouraging it in other patients,
Beautiful.
which is fantastic. Yeah.
So I usually end our sessions with a myth. Do you happen to have a myth you would like to debunk for our audience today?
Ooh. Oh boy. A myth to debunk for our audience today. There is one magical fruit and one magical vegetable that nature provides for us that will heal every disease. There is one magic dish that every chef can prepare that will heal us from every disease. That's the myth that I have. I thought about it for a minute. I was like, well, should I do a dish or an ingredient? But I think it's both. It's like everyone will come out every couple weeks with an influencer saying, this is the magic supplement, this is the magic pill, this is the magic whatever. And so that's my myth, that there's one natural item from Mother Nature that she created that'll keep us all well. No, there are many different puzzles to your health that you have to be aware of. And so there is no magic supplement or magic fruit or vegetable that a chef can prepare in a kitchen that will make you completely well of any disease and anything. And so be cautious of the influencers and people that say that this is what you take that will keep everything in the world away from you, diabetes and cancer and blah blah. No. Yeah, the snake oil peddlers on social media, they're everywhere now. And they claim that this is it. No, there's many different factors. Instead, just eat healthy. Find the ingredients that your body tolerates that make you feel well. Cook with them, and you too can be thankfully local and thankfully well, and be a part of the chef's recovery journey.
How perfect. And if someone wants to be a part of that and they want to connect with you, whether that they're in the North Carolina area or not, if they're not, can they still reach out? How would they contact you, and how would that happen?
Absolutely. Well, the easiest way, without having any intermediaries or any kind of commission-based folks that are out there selling on my behalf, just come on to my multiple websites. I have the resortchef.com, which services my catering and events and wellness events. And then I also have the thankfully local privatechef.com, which is my website that everybody can visit. Read some of the blogs that are out there that tell you about some of my journey, some of the anti-inflammatory foods and items that I recommend. They can read all that on the website, and then also take a look at our pricing. We are going nationwide in the new year, so I will be able to travel to a home near you to be able to make some of this tasty food that is recommended, recommended foods from folks like Dr. Jena here that recommend those wonderful foods for you and create those lists for you, but you just don't have time to do all that meal prep. Leave it to me. I'll take care of it for you. We have all the listing and all the pricing on the website, thethankfullylocalprivatechef.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chuck. Thank you so much for everything, for being here for today, for reaching out, for sharing your journey, for being so diligent and passionate about your work, and then even more for continuing and just the whole hardness of just sharing and giving. Like that's just the light the world needs, especially those looking for their light when the health is bad and traditional medicine is not helping.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor getting to know you, and I look forward to hopefully coming on the show again. We've had some big things going on. We're getting the word out there about medical meals and how you can eat the food that you eat can help heal your body, and through the gut microbiome and the gut connection to the rest of the body, and hopefully in the new year, like I say, 2026 is going to be huge for us. So be on the lookout, everybody. There's a lot out there now. New York Post, and yesterday was Forbes magazine, but I'm looking for, anywhere I can do a nutritional contribution, Dr. Jena, I'm doing it. And I'm hoping for traditional television and morning shows in the new year to really get out there and talk to folks and look into the camera and tell them about the importance of the food that we eat and the importance of healing through food. That's very, very important.
Well, that is my passion too. So if there's anything I can do to help you on your journey, please let me know too.
Oh, I'd love to do a few of these with you because we've got so much in common that we can talk about. We can partner up on these podcasts and really help to, like I say, use this platform to help educate the American public about our food and our food sources and what it can do to help heal us. That's very, very important.
I'm in. Sign me up.
I'm in too. I'm in too. And be on the lookout because I'm going to get my PhD real soon. I'll be Dr. Chef Chuck.
Well, then I will love to welcome back Dr. Chuck Hayworth.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for having me, Jena.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Chuck, for sharing your healing journey, your insight, and your expertise with me. I was so inspired by your story and by the way you've used it to transform the lives of other people. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in today for this episode of CNS Unfiltered. If you're dealing with an illness or a serious medical condition, food can be a means of supportive care while you're healing. You deserve food that brings you joy and makes you feel good in your body and in your spirit. People like Chuck can help you find that joy again. If you're interested in working with Chuck, be sure to check out theresortchef.com, the Thankfully Local Privatechef.com, or any of the blog posts and articles that you can find online in places like the New York Post or Forbes magazine. If you're interested in working with me, check out innateclinicalnutrition.com to schedule a free discovery call. If you're a future or current CNS or functional medicine practitioner, medical professional, or functional medicine patient, we want to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or success stories, send us an email at cnsunfiltered@gmail.com for a chance to be featured on a future episode. If you're a clinical nutritionist or other functional medicine practitioner and you're interested in being interviewed, click in the link in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening and follow at Innate Clinical Nutrition so you don't miss a new episode. And share this with a client or classmate who might need to hear it. Once again, I am Jena Salisbury, and remember to listen to your gut.